This is Shelley Craft coming to you live on SNN Live. We're at the 40th Annual New Orleans Investment Conference 2014. I have Brent Cook, Exploration Insights, featured speaker at the conference. Brent, welcome back to SNN Live.
Always a pleasure to be here.
What are you speaking on?
The title of my talk is Peak Gold, Problem or Opportunity, with a question mark. And I think it's an opportunity, so that's what I'm speaking on, addressing what I see as a serious issue in this sector, not just gold but metals in general, is that we are no longer finding enough new deposits to replace what we're actually mining.
Whose problem is that? I mean, I got to really let's answer that.
Well, it's the mining companies' problems. With the decrease in metal prices we've seen recently, and the new initiative to increase profitability, they've had to cut production, or at least they've high-graded their deposits. They've had to cut exploration. They've had to cut development. Their whole future they've cut into. At the same time, they're not finding enough new deposits to replace what's being mined. So it is their problem, and it's going to be a serious problem looking out 2-3 years from now. And for us investors in this junior sector, it's fantastic in that all we have to do is own the very few dozen or so companies with projects or people that are capable of finding these deposits.
Okay.
And they've got to be economic, and that's the key thing. They've got to be economic.
Now I'm going to be Barrick for a minute. Okay? I've got a publicly traded company. I have a board of directors. I have thousands upon thousands of shareholders. I had to write off $1 billion in Q2. I had to write off $1 billion in Q3. Who are you to tell me I shouldn't do that when all I want to do is survive and maintain my earnings per share?
Well, that's the point I'm trying to get across, is to maintain earnings per share, they're having to do all these cost-cutting measures, but this is a business that every ounce of gold or pound of copper you mine, if you don't replace it, your business is declining. So they need to replace these reserves, and they're not.
Yeah, but aren't they a part of their own demise if they do that? But let me give you the other side of the equation. They've taken the juniors down too. The juniors are disappearing. The exploration is done in most companies' cases. You know, what do we see at a conference? A diminished amount of companies, right? So aren't they smarter than we think? Aren't they going to go out, even if they have to pay up a little bit and let someone else do the exploration work? They've probably been monitoring everything that's going on in the exploration market. So why not?
Well, that's precisely my point, is we want to own the junior companies with the deposits, economic deposits that they're going to buy. I mean, take for instance, in the newsletter, we owned an Australian company called Papillon. Fantastic deposit in Mali. It took a while, we owned it for quite a while, but eventually B2 Gold came and bought it because it's a good deposit. And there's maybe a dozen good deposits out there in gold deposits right now that I would want to own.
And I know that you're going to tell us a couple of those right now.
I'll give it a shot. One I own, one I bought recently, we've bought it a few times in the newsletter, is a company called Dalradian Resources, DNA in Vancouver. They've got a deposit, gold deposit, high-grade gold deposit in Northern Ireland. It's going through the feasibility process right now. It makes money.
So when I want my investors that are watching this interview right now to find out more information about what you're doing and what you're recommending, what would be the best website to send them to?
Mine. That would be explorationinsights.com. And there's a lot of information on there. You know, some things I've written, some opinions I've got on the sector, some helpful tools for your own due diligence. Recently, I was on a panel, conducted a panel with some of the best mining executives discussing the sector itself and how it works. So I think if you're going to get into this sector, it helps to get a handle on how it works, to understand it, so that you can do better than average.
And I want to say something about Brent. In the past, I've asked you questions, and you stated that you do not take fees from any companies, so all of your research is independent and all of your acquisitions are based on your own funds.
Precisely. My letter is about what I'm doing with my money in this sector, what I buy it, what I'm expecting when I sell it. We also talk about companies that I'm not buying if it's, you know, a big news item, and that's what it's all about.
In my world, that's known as skin in the game. Brent, thanks for coming on to SNN Live. Always good to have you.
Thank you, Shelley.
I'm Shelley Kraft. This is SNN Live. This is Brent Cook, Exploration Insights. He's a speaker, well-known man in the business. We're at the 40th Annual New Orleans Investment Conference 2014. Again, thank you very much for coming on.
Great. Pleasure.
Good to have you.